guys, in today's review we will be looking at a Rapido Trains UK preserved locomotive, and this is a model that I've been following with great interest just to see how it comes out. And this is the Pot of Paw twins or Bagnall shunters, and I went for the preserved yellow one, and I went for Alfred. Let me give you some details about the model. So this one is era 11 and it's preserved. The product code is 968004 Alfred, and it is DTC silent. It came out roughly November-December time of 2025. So from here it looks really tiny. So let's get into the review and see what it's all about, shall we? And if it is any good. So here goes. So starting off in the usual places with a newly tooled item of locomotive or rolling stock, and that is if you get a detail bag and a owner's manual or a guide. Like you see from this, you do. So let's start with the detail bag. The detail bag itself is resealable, which is great, they always like that. You do it quite a lot and it is painted. So you get two different styles of hooks, one with chain links, one without. You also get, I think it's steam pipe or vac pipe. You get etched, I believe they are, name plates, which is Alfred. The ones on the loco don't look too bad. Then you also get some builder's plates which have a little bit more detail on them as well. You get doors for the back of the cab. You get doors for the side of the cab as well. And you also get a blanking plate or blanking plug if you don't want to use the couplings that are supplied. And there may be a few other details as well. On to the owner's manual now. The owner's manual is a typical Rapido one. So you have a line drawing on the front, then inside you get your brief history on your first couple of pages. Then on page 5, about running it in, it tells you what not to do and what to do. Interestingly, they tell you to run it in at a slower speed than you normally would and gradually get it to medium to help bed the gears and stuff in. Then on page 6 and 7, it tells you where to add the detail parts, but not what you've got. Me, I personally like to know what I've got of each, just in case there's something missing out of the bag. Also, it tells you what glues to use, etc. Then, if you want to take the base keeper plate off, it's 3 screws, and it looks like it could have bearings in. But yeah, you got 3 screws to take off the base keeper plate, and it tells you all about the detail stuff and stuff like that, and your sockets if you want to DCC fit it and all that stuff. Servicing your model is the usual stuff, tells you what not to use and what to use. Also controllers, I think this has got a cordless motor, so it tells you not to use older controllers like Hammond and Morgan, clippers and stuff like that. Feedback controllers and some cleaners as well. Again, DC operating on the next few pages. I will say this does have, I think, stair lives on it, but you have to use certain chips, I believe, and it does tell you which chips they recommend you to use for reasons. If you want to take the shell off, there's 2 screws literally just under the last wheels by the cab, and the shell should come off slowly. Then the rest is functions and a small exploded diagram, and then you have your warranty and stuff like that at the back. On to the front of the locomotive now. Yes, we do have sprung buffers, and they are black. They're quite big looking sprung buffers as well. I'm surprised Rapido managed to do that. Again, I'm not sure if they are metal or plastic. They feel slightly warm to touch, so I'm guessing they are plastic, and they are black. Down below, we do have, I think it's a NEM small tension lock coupler applied. There's no pocket visible. I think it's hidden under the base keeper plate. Again, if you want to remove that for some of the detail parts, you can. Most of the front is die cast. So the massive buffer beam you see here is die cast. If you look closely enough, you can see circles of rivets where the cylinders are on the loco. You may be able to see some cylinder drain cocks as well sticking out in black. The buffer beam and shanks are black, again with a few rivets on. And like I said before, they are sprung. If you look in the centre of the buffer beam when it dips down, there's a black line, and that black line is for your choice of hooks. Hooks by itself or hooks with chain links. They are both in your detail bags. Moving up, we don't have the usual 3 lamp irons. But what we do have is a die cast front, which you can see the dart and the hinges for the cement box door, which is in black. Again, nothing's been picked out, but there's tons and tons of rivets. If you look either side of the saddle tanks, you can probably see a sanding pot either side picked out in yellow. The saddle tongues themselves from the front are not lined, but you do have Port of Par written in red, and it's quite crisp and lovely. Then we also have a tiny lamp iron right at the top where it says Port of. It's right in the centre of that. Then you can also see the tiny chimney that this locomotive has. Now we move on to the side of the locomotive. To me, both sides of this model are exactly the same. I cannot find any differences. If I have missed anything, I do apologise. You have to give credit to Rapido with this model. It's so small and so flat. It looks like an N-gauge locomotive that's had a 00 wheel set put to it to a degree and slightly stretched. Hopefully now there should be a picture of the locomotive next to a 50p piece, just to show you how small it is. So let's talk about details on this side. So the saddle tanks themselves are plastic. We do have black handrails there. I think they are a plastic piece. But as long as they do the job, I ain't too bothered. Again, they are a separately applied part as well. The livery for this locomotive is in the preserved lined yellow. So it's a yellow and the lining is in red. We also have a nameplate in the centre of the saddle tank at the bottom, which is Alfred. Again, wonderfully done, wonderfully printed. It has a gold texture going to it. Even the sanding boxes, again, have been lined. We do have some details between the chassis and the saddle tanks. Again, a mixture of plastic and metal, I think. Especially looking at it from here, it does some do look like metal, but close up, they could look like plastic. We have a few bits of riveting as well underneath the saddle tanks where the smoke box area is. Again, you can just see them in certain angles. As we move on down just a little bit before I talk about the cab, we do have a metal running plate or chassis that is die-cast metal. Again in black, I don't think there's any rivets on there. We also have the cylinders themselves have been lined again in this yellow with red lining. And we have some drain cocks in black at the bottom as well. There's quite a lot of metal work going into there, but also a mixture of plastic as well by the touch. I think the rods themselves to the wheels are plastic. Again, if they work, it doesn't bother me. I would prefer the metal rods, but I don't know, it keeps the cost down. We also have, I think, metal wheels. Again, they've been lined in a white wall with black wheels, and the axles have been covered up. If you look behind that, you probably can see some details like sanding pipes, brake shoes, and other details from the firebox as well. Again, it's in a brown colour, and then where the base key plate is, it's in a dark black. I did say I was going to talk about the cab area. I'm going to talk about the cab area now. We do have a step. Again, it looks to be a separately applied part. Could be plastic. We have plastic handrails going up into the cab. We also have a L shape where the bunker is, where the coal is. Again, that's all been lined as well, and there is a builder's plate, but as far as I'm aware, it doesn't say anything on it. But the one in the detail bags does, I believe. The top half of the cab, again, is in this wood that it has in real life. I think you have some detail parts to add, like the doors and stuff like that. And then the back of the cab does hang out just a little bit. And then we get to the buffers. We now move on to the cab detail. This being a modern day cab detail, it is high detailed, if I'm honest with you, but there is no flickering firebox or glow on anything from silent to sound fitted, nothing. Rapido said they couldn't quite fit one in. It is a shame, but I understand, and it sort of keeps the cost down as well. We do have glazing in all the windows in the cab. We also have a water gauge. I think we have two of them. We have a regulator. We have some other piping. We also have some numerals on the dials as well. Very nice of them. The cab itself is in a cream colour, and you can see this from very different angles. We also have, I think it's a water scoop or handbrake at the back, which is top half is red, bottom half is black, and I think the cab floor again is either in a black or dark brown. Like I said, the glazing is flush, if I'm honest with you, front and back totally flush, and the outside cab handles are plastic, I think. But everywhere you look in the cab, there's more and more details. If you look closely enough, you probably can see some rivets and other stuff in there too. We now come to the back of the cab. I want to say the back of the cab is much like the front. So we do have sprung buffers. Again, they're black. Not too sure if they are metal or plastic, but at least they are sprung. Again, the coupler down below, the pocket is hiding under the base key plate, but if you want to pull it out, you can and change it for a blanking plate. There's one in the detail bag. Again, the buffer being themselves is die cast, feels cold to touch. and it's in red. We also have the buffering and shanks are in black, again like the front. If you look closely enough, you can just about see a small black line, and that is where you add your hooks, much like the front. As we move on up just a little bit, like I said, the back of the cab does hang out just a tiny bit. Again, there's a massive hole. It looks like a shocked face from here if you don't add the details. It looks very much like a shocked face. We do have spectacles at the back. We also have a massive opening. You can look inside the cab. If you wanted to add the doors, you're more than welcome. They're in the detail bag. Also, the doors for the side of the cab are in the detail bag as well. The doors at the back here, I believe, are postable, which is great, and they look like a wood effect going on. There's no lining around the back here, it's just yellow. If you look up, we have a massive black strip, and then we come to the cab roof. Now I'll come on to doing my usual aerial view on top of the locomotive. So let's start in the usual place, which is the cab roof. The cab roof is in grey. I believe it does have some rain ducts. We have a vent, it's quite a big vent, moulded in the open position, and there is a few rivets dotted around. If you look through that hole, you probably can see some more of the cab detail that's in there. If we move across just a little bit, you can see the front of the glazing. It's sort of like a square triangle shape for the cab windows. Again, I don't think there's any lining on there, it's just yellow. We do have a safety valve, which looks to be a metal piece. If not, it's brilliantly done. Then on the other side, as you look at it, it's on the right side. We also have a whistle. Again, I'm not too sure if that is a metal piece as well, but again, it's done really, really well. On either side of the cab, you can see some tiny small bunkers, which have the coal in. If you look between them, you can also see the yellow goes in between them as well. And then you can see some of the boiler cladding, which is in a grey. As we move along, we come to a dome, which is in yellow with something on it. We also have the lining, which I said before is delivery is yellow, the lining is red. We have a water filler cap with a black top, with all the intricate stuff moulded to it, and then we come to the flat chimney. You may be able to see some other detail parts dotted around from these angles as well. Now we come on to the underneath look at the locomotive. If I'm honest with you, there isn't really much to look at, but it is quite important to always look at the underneath of a locomotive, or anything you buy. Yeah, I am right, there isn't any NEM pockets showing. I think they've been hidden. And it looks like there is 3 screws to take off the base key plate, and it possibly could be bearings on the wheels, by the looks of this. Again, we have that plunger pickup system. If I'm honest, not a fan of it. It's a ball ache to service and clean. But that's just my preference. There is some detail underneath the cab. We have a little bulge there, there's some detail. You can also see the cylinder drain cocks from here as well. And there's several holes at the front, which I'm guessing is something to do with the sound, but I could be wrong. And if you look just below the last lot of wheels that are near the cab, you can see 2 screws to take off the shell, which I'm not going to do that. It does look rather tidy under here as well. So yeah guys, that's it on the tracks. Next up will be the usual points test. There's no point doing second radius because it probably can do lower than first. If I'm honest with you, I am a little worried about how small the wheelbase is for the points test, especially my new way. So here goes anyway, let's get into it, shall we? A little fast, but it made it. So we go backwards. Again, a little fast. Just above the 30, anything below that it will store if it's not DCC fitted. So yeah, a very much a mixed bag there. It managed the points from the shed onto the main line. Again, around the 35 mark, no issues. But when you do it over the switchover at the far corner, it won't do it. I just saw a poke tip. Also, it won't do reverse on the inner loop. So, a bit odd. Do know Rapido had issues with stuff like this, with the DCC fitted ones, but yeah. So next up, I'll give it some slow speed. We'll find it a train to pull. It is preserved, and I will see you at the end. So here goes. It's not bad, where are we? About the 20. Still going, not bad at all. So yeah guys, that's the end of the running session and the review. Before I give my price, or the price that I paid for the model and opinion, I'll tell you what it was pulling, which was basically some open wagons and a LMS brake van at the end. I thought I'd put the free plank next to it, just to show you how small it is, if the 50p didn't help. So yeah, it's a pretty small locomotive. So, price now. I got mine from Tops Trains in Stafford and I paid £125. Again, it is a family run shop. If you get these from other shops, you're talking round about 116, 118 depending on delivery in the shop. And also if they're in stock or not, because I think quite a few have sold out. If you get this model from Rapido themselves, you're talking £140. All them prices are for the DC Ready or the silent version of this model, like that one. And prices may change depending on when you watch this video. So time for my opinion now on this Port of Par locomotive, Alfred. And for me, I am blown away. It sort of resembles when Hornby did the Stephenson's Rocket in 2020. Such detail in a small locomotive, it blows my mind each time. I do have to be honest here though, I was a little bit disappointed with the crossover track that I did on the points test. It wouldn't manage that and it also wouldn't come back. That's why that bit got a bit cut, a bit abrupt. It's the only loco I know that does it. I don't know if there's an issue with mine, so I have to be honest with you with that. But as you saw with the points test from the shed to the main line, no issues. And even when I was running around the track in the running session, managed the points, going over the points fine. There was no issues and it ran that at 20%. But then again, it did have the weight of the train behind it. But again, no issues. Absolutely no issues there. Like I said, if you go above 30, it's fine over points, or most points. And if you're below 30, it does struggle. But then again, it does have a tiny wheelbase, if I'm honest with you. Much like the Dapple Hawthorne Leslie, the Hornby W4, and even the B2. And even the H-Class from Rapido does suffer from point issues along with the Smoky Joe and the Cardane locos that Hornby made for many years. But am I disappointed in it? No, full credit has to go to Andy Hardy and the team at Rapido, and even Jason in Canada, for having the foresight to see such a lovely locomotive come to 00. I'm not too keen on the pickup situation they use, but that's their choice. Personally, I'd go with contact strips because they're easy to clean and maintain. This is going to be a ball ache for someone like me with issues. May not be for everybody, but with me, with issues with my hands and my eyesight, it's going to be a ball ache. But it does run well. The lack of the flickering firebox, no, it's not a lack. I understand why they haven't put it in there. It would have been nice, especially with how wide the back is. It would have been nice, but we can't have everything, can we? I'm a big fan of these. I understand they have done many variants of the two that are out there, including liveries and differences with handrails, I believe. Not an expert. I don't like preserved models, so I'm not an expert. But yeah, mine is a lovely model. I can't praise it enough. I am truly blown away. Is it up to par from Rapido's other stuff? Yes, damn right it is. Very much so. Even like the H-Class, like I said, it runs wonderful. This was my review on the quite outstanding Rapido UK Port of Par locomotive Alfred. Hope you enjoyed the review. Please take care and goodbye.